What we have today. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on FCT Brief. President Bola Tinubu has renamed the University of Maiduguri in Borno State after former President Muhammadu Buhari. President Tinubu announced this on Thursday during an expanded Federal Executive Council meeting at the Presidential Villa in Abuja in honor of the former Nigerian leader. At the event, President Tinubu, who led tributes for Buhari, described him as a man of integrity who lived a respectful life. Buhari, a former Nigerian leader, died in London on July 13 after a prolonged illness and was buried on Tuesday in a ceremony attended by dignitaries within and outside the country.
President Muhammadu Buhari was Nigeria's second longest serving leader. He was a military head of state between 1983 and 1985. The Katsina-born was later elected as Nigeria's president, serving the country between 2015 and 2023. For more on the expanded Federal Executive Council meeting, let's bring in TVC News Aso Rock correspondent and the Deputy Bureau Chief, Northern Operations, Femi Akonde. Nice to have you here.
Thanks, Shaman.
And also, also joining us via Zoom is a public affairs analyst, Mr. Jide Ojo. Thank you for coming on the show. I think we'll get to speak with Jide Ojo. All right. Good to have you here joining us. Now, let me start with you, Mr. Jide Ojo. Just yesterday, the Federal Executive Council met and did honor the late head of state. How will you react to the naming of the University of Maiduguri and the days of honor that has been given to this deserving former leader?
Thank you very much, Eshomamo. As you rightly said, deserving. This is a man who puts over 5 decades of his life out of 82. For close to 60 years, he was in public service. Started off as a military administrator of north-eastern Nigeria, then military administrator of Borno State, then commissioner for petroleum resources, that's equivalent of minister of petroleum resources, and then getting to head of state for like 20 months, from January 1, 1984 to August 27, 1985. Then became the chairman of Petroleum Trust Fund, and thereafter wind down his public service tour of duty with 2-term civilian presidency. For me, he's a man of destiny. He has his flaws, no doubt. Just like every human being, you cannot have a perfect human being alive or dead. But he did his level best within what his health could guarantee him. He did so much, particularly for Borno State, for Northeast Nigeria. Is perceived as the hero outside of his northwestern region. His #1 hero, even during his presidency, he did a lot for Borno State to ensure that the state is not overrun by Boko Haram insurgents. You recall that one of the first critical steps he took after assuming presidency was to relocate the command and control center of the Nigerian military to Maiduguri. And they were able to flush out these insurgents and push them to the Maranda Hills and what's it called, Sambisa Forest. So they could no longer hold down any of the local government. As at the time he took over, about 17 local governments in Borno State were under the siege of Boko Haram with their flags and taking charge and command of those communities and local governments. But with his presidency, he was able to push back the insurgents. Of course, he didn't defeat them completely, but he did a lot. And these are testimonies from people of Borno State themselves, how he was able to liberate many of their communities, restore peace and order, and many of them that were in IDP camps could go back to their farms, could go back to their businesses, could go back to their ancestral home. So it is just fit and proper that such a person should be given this national honor. In fact, I've also similarly called for that when I feature on this your station on the day of the burial 2 days ago, that it needs to be immortalized. And I think the president just heeded that advice and has deemed it fit to rename University of Maiduguri after him. It's just a fit and proper thing to do, to show appreciation, to show recognition, to show that we do not take his public service record for granted. This is a man who, throughout his tour of duties, never named any institution after himself, or was there any institution named after him? Outside of the roads, I know that there is a Muhammadu Buhari road here in Abuja, but I don't think any national monument has ever been named after him. Even though there is a University of Transportation in Daura, it didn't get named after him, even though it was the institution is cited in his home state.
Well, Mr. Ojo, we'll come back to you, but let's speak with our Stakehouse correspondent here in the studio. You were in the council chambers yesterday. Can you tell us what the mood was like? How emotional did it get?
Well, it was quite a solemn one yesterday at that expanded Federal Executive Council meeting. You know, it got really emotional when Yusuf Buhari, the son of the late president, was speaking. He struggled to, you know, hold back tears. You know, that Federal Executive Council meeting, or that council chamber, was where former President Muhammadu Buhari himself once sat as chairman, presiding over the meeting, you know, approving contracts, awarding contracts, making critical decisions for nation building. And then, you know, a lot of thought, I'm sure, would have been running through the minds of all of those there, just knowing that how would I put it now? Just knowing that, you know, this life, you know, it's not something that a lot of people would, I'm looking for the right word to use to describe it. Yeah, maybe, frail, I would say. You know, really frail, that once he was sitting here as chair, and then now we're here talking about his death. Yeah, him talking about his death and paying tribute to him. We also saw tribute from President Bola Tinubu himself, glowing tribute for a friend. I know people are now beginning to talk about the friendship between President Bola Tinubu and Muhammadu Buhari. It appears as if, you know, not a lot of people knew that these men were that close or had that strong bond between them until his death, seeing how President Bola Tinubu went all out for his predecessor, President Muhammadu Buhari. You know, asking, you know, it's like he carried the whole country along in ensuring that President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Muhammadu Buhari, gets a befitting burial, directing flags to be flown at half-mast, declaring a national mourning, even declaring a public holiday. That is quite significant. Not all national or prominent figures get that particular honor. So it goes out to show that President Muhammadu Buhari was indeed a special man, one that President Bola Tinubu holds closely to his heart. You recall how the two of them worked together politically and were able to unseat an incumbent government in 2015. And, you know, since then they have also continued to work together, and despite the rumors, people always come up with different rumors and tried to put a wedge between them, but, you know, these men remain strong. Even outside office, former President Muhammadu Buhari said, well, he was going to go far away from Abuja and ensure he does not interfere in governance. You know, it's very difficult. We see what happens when a governor is out of office and, you know, his successor begins to complain that, you know, the former governor is overbearing, trying to interfere in matters of state. You know, this did not exist between the two men, Muhammadu Buhari and President Tinubu. Buhari allowed Tinubu to run the affairs of the country, and I think this also helped strengthen the relationship between them. It was not just a loss for Nigerians. It was also a personal loss for President Bola Tinubu and also the family.
Yeah, Femi, let me just stay with you on the solemn assembly at the FEC meeting yesterday. I don't know if you're aware, was there something like a gazette how from our president, because this was like a novel burial for a former president. I don't know, maybe going forward, this is the pattern. Because somebody actually said on this platform that I think anybody that has come to serve the country deserves to be honored, having sacrificed, whether you agree with the person or not, having paid the price of service. Where if there is something like that, okay, going forward, this is the template we'll be using to honor our leaders.
Well, for now, it's not cast on stone, and, you know, everyone who had served the country at a particular time, especially the prominent ones, yes, they get their honors. Some, even in life, they get, you know, these, the medals, CFR, MFR, and all of that, a recognition of their service and contribution to the country and nation building. You know, it's at the discretion of the government of the day, I would say. Yes, when former leaders die, the government released statements. They also declare that the country is in mourning, but the format or the mode in which that is carried out is at the discretion of the government. We saw how this government went all out, deployed resources, even set up a ministerial committee. Within 48 hours, that committee was able to ensure that President Muhammadu Buhari was buried, got a befitting burial, not just according to Islamic rites, but of course, one that the country will be able to say, indeed, we have been able to lay to rest a man who served this country for most part of his life. First as a military man, as a soldier. He joined at the age of 19, you know, rose through the ranks, became military president. He was first the governor of the northeastern states. You know, that was around 1975. And I think that speaks to why President Bola Tinubu decided to name the University of Maiduguri after him. You know, just like Mr. Jide Ojo said, he has a special attachment to Maiduguri. He once served there as governor of northeastern Nigeria. He also set up, his administration also set up the Northeast Development Commission, and that was under the president. He ensured that, you know, this commission got all of the funds it needed. He was very much interested in the activities and operations of this Northeast Development Commission for the development of the Northeast, and maybe you say in particular Borno State. Anytime there's an incident in Borno State, you know, Mr. President Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari, late president, was particularly concerned because of that attachment he has to the place. He will tell you when he was there as governor of the Northeastern State, how peaceful the place was, how beautiful it was, and how it breaks his heart to see that, you know, all of that has changed over the years, and he hoped that it would return to the way it used to be. But well, sadly, he never got to see that in his lifetime.
Well, Mr. Ojo, looking at how President Tinubu's administration handled the planning and execution of the state funeral, would you say that this truly captured the kind of man that former President Muhammadu Buhari, who is late now, did he capture the man he is, or he was?
Of course, TJ, so he did capture it. Facts are coming out about who truly Muhammadu Buhari is. People have said he's grossly misunderstood. I believe so. This is a man that many of us thought was a religious bigot. This is a man that we said was clannish. This is a man that we said was provincial. This is a man that people even rejoice at his death. But when you listen to different segments of Nigerian society, from the southeast to south-south to southwest to north-central, you will find icons paying glowing tributes to this man. He completed the second Niger bridge that even successive administration have largely ignored. This man gave the community of persons with disability the National Disability Act. That is the law that has given some sense of inclusion to the community of persons with disability. This bill was twice vetoed by previous presidents before Buhari came, and on January 23, 2019, he signed in prohibition of discrimination against persons with disability law bill into law. And today there is a commission for National Commission for Persons with Disability here in Abuja. This is a man that signed the Petroleum Industry Bill into law. This was an applicable bill that has been there, and all the previous administration never succeeded in getting it passed. He got it passed, and today there is a Petroleum Industry Act which has attracted a lot of foreign investment into the Nigerian oil and gas sector. This was a man who also devolved power. Under his watch, we have two constitutional alterations, one in 2018, another in 2023, when there was devolution of power. Today, electricity, railway, and prisons have been brought from exclusive legislative list to concurrent legislative list. This was a man that gave us the not too young to run law. It was a bill he signed into law, reducing the age qualification for persons who want to contest the presidency of Nigeria from 40 years to 35 years, and those who wanted to contest House of Reps and State House of Assembly from 30 to 25 years. This was a man who gave us the 2022 Electoral Act. This was a man that gave so much. Today, the revival of Nigerian railway system is traceable to Buhari. He completed the Abuja-Kaduna standard gauge line. It did so much in terms of infrastructural development across the country. So for this kind of a man, that yes, you depends on how you want to perceive him. He has his own flaws. He possibly didn't have eyes for details. He was not much of a superintendent. He was lax on, in terms of micromanaging his appointees, and of course we have had how some of them help themselves to the Commonwealth of Nigeria. But at least the common opinion, the unanimous opinion about the person of Muhammadu Buhari is that he's incorruptible, is a man of sublime humility, is a man of modest means, is a man of integrity. Even his colleagues within the military ranks have paid that kind of tribute to him. That, well, you can trust him, is honest to a fault, and you can see him in the kind of modest lifestyle he lived. Some other people will have retired into a very big edifice, a mansion of sort, with acres of land and all of that. But rather, he retired to his farm in Daura, with a very modest house over there. You could see the environment of the house when he was giving the state funeral. Outside of Daura and Kaduna, I'm not sure he has any house in Abuja or, elsewhere. So this was a man who gave his all. And that is why what the state funeral, the national holiday, and I must not forget to mention, please, the fact that he recognized MKO Abiola as the winner of 1993 June 12 presidential election and gave him a national honor, to the extent that he moved our Democracy Day from May 29 to June 12. That is also one of, it shows how detribalized he was. Remember, we had an Obasanjo who was there as president for 8 years. He never recognized MKO Abiola. He never immortalized MKO Abiola. But this man not only recognized Abiola, he named the national stadium in Abuja after him, MKO Abiola National Stadium. So he did a lot for every segment of Nigeria, irrespective of region or race or religion.
All right, Mr. Jide Ojo, I want to quickly follow up with this. You've enumerated so many things, and myself, for one, before now, I never saw some of these things in that light. And with all these tributes, I'm beginning to have a positive mindset about this man. And some persons have actually said that. Why don't we also have something like, there was this, I think on Rosa's report where they said we should merge the EFCC with the ICPC. You have something like Muhammadu Buhari Anti-Corruption Center, in the sense that one thing that stands him out is his stance against corruption, his integrity, so that generations after now, Without you even enumerating things, we know that this is the primary identity of this former leader. And also person said that even a library should be in his honor, where you go to read about this man that was once our leader. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, Oshomomo, I think that is also another. Unfortunately, they didn't give us a memoir. This, you know, for me, reflecting on life and times of Buhari, it validates one point, that indeed there are special breed of human beings. Do you know Buhari had only one wife and he was married twice? He never engaged in all this frolicking, having multiple wives and uncountable children. Only 10 children from 2 wives. Safinatu and Aisha. Well, it shows how disciplined he was. And in terms of having a library in his honor, it's not out of place, so that we can have, if there's a presidential library that could be erected in his honor, where people can learn about his life and times, just the same way in the mode of people like Mahatma Gandhi of India, in the mode of Lee Kuan Yew, he may not have delivered or, you know, be a kind of a part of modern Nigeria, because he himself said that he wished he were younger when he became president of Nigeria. Don't also forget, one of the things Buhari did was he was the first presidential candidate to defeat an incumbent president. After 4 trials at the presidency of Nigeria, he shows his resilience as a soldier, never giving up. He contested the presidency of Nigeria from 2003 to 2015. Consistently, he lost on 3 occasions and won on the fourth attempt. And that shows resilience, that shows commitment, that shows focus. So there's a lot to learn about this personnel who, even in 2015, in the lead up to 2015 election, did you know that APC fixed its nomination fee and expression of interest at 27.5 million naira? Buhari had to go and take overdrafts from his bankers to be able to pay that nomination fee. This was a man who was petroleum minister. This was a former head of state. This was a former military administrator. How can he not easily pay 27.5 million? He was complaining. He said the money was too much. So if he's a man that has amassed a lot of wealth, was a billionaire in dollars or naira, it should not have been a problem to him. In fact, people funded this campaign. Remember that people bought him nomination form in 2019. People contributed money to buy him. Yes, his aides, his lieutenants disappointed Nigeria. They looted the treasury. He didn't have much eyes for details because he was bought with illness. Remember in 2017, he spent half of 2017 in London Hospital on medical tourism. That was why when Yemi Osinbajo, the vice president, had to be incapacitated as acting president. But assuming that he was in good health, maybe we will have seen a more dynamic, a more robust, a more hands-on Buhari during his presidency. But then, an updated Buhari is better than many of the crowd of politicians we see now. Right. Because what we have majorly among the political class are looters, are not people who are there for public service. So I believe, yes, maybe we can have an anti-corruption center. Whether it will be ideal to collapse ICPC and EFCC together, that is debatable, because I think they have different mandates, even though they are all anti-corruption agencies. Right, and you know there are more anti-corruption agencies than those two.
Yes,
but in terms of
we'll come back to that. Because of time, let's quickly speak with our State House correspondent here. You covered, President Muhammadu Buhari during his time in office. How would you say his leadership style was? Was it hands-off? Was he on top of things? Or was he just, absent?
Well, that's a bit debatable. Some people would say he was hands-on. Some would say he was hands-off. But one major problem he has, which is his weakness is that he trusts too much. He also complained about that, he gives people the job to do, believing that that job will be done, and believing that, people will diligently execute the directive he has given out. I know that actually came back to hurt him so much, because there's this story in Femi Adesina's book where he said the story of a woman that worked with the Bulk Electric, one of these agencies under in the energy sector. She talked about a deal that the country was about to sign. She wrote as a civil servant, advising the country against signing that deal. That was worth about $10 million. But people at the top, government officials, all advised the president to sign the deal, and he signed the deal. So along the line, he saw the letter written by the woman advising against signing that deal, and he was shocked. He actually called her to thank her, and also told her that the problem is that he trusts people too much. That imagine trusting people and they come back to advise him badly. That he goes to them. He said he's not an engineer. He doesn't have the knowledge or the know-how in certain sectors. That's why he relies on his lieutenants. He relies on the ministers. He relies on the directors and all of that. But because of their own personal interests, they take advantage of the president. Even
looking at the case of the changing of the currency.
Yes, indeed. Look at the case of the currency swap. They advise the president badly because of certain interests, allegedly certain interests of the then CBN governor Emefiele, and other people around the president advise him badly. And that's why the president has ministers, he has advisors, because we don't expect the president to know it all. But it's also very important for a leader, once you give directive, to always follow up to find out what level of execution or what level of implementation has been achieved, and that is where I would say he failed. So a lot of people also, and he was a quiet man, hardly spoke, very observant, listened a lot. So people will come into the room and they want to hear from Muhammad Buhari, but rather than hear from him, he's rather listening, and then people begin to interpret his body language. Oh, when I was speaking to him, I think he smiled, or he winked in a certain way, or he had this expression on his face. And then they go out to interpret it to mean that, oh, I got President Buhari's nod on so-and-so issue. I got his nod on this. And then sometimes he's also, I'll put that on the desk of his media team, they are also sometimes slow to react, to clarify certain misinformation out there. There was a lot of misinformation and disinformation under the Buhari administration, especially about the activities of government. And we didn't really get a quick reaction from the media team, probably dissociating themselves from certain claims or putting certain things in proper perspective for Nigerians to know, because we deserve to know. And then sometimes, they just come out and outrightly criticize and outrightly condemn, especially media organizations or people who are believed to be carrying or believed to be spreading certain information. But you don't blame them. There's a gap. And once there's that vacuum, it needs to be filled. Once there's a vacuum of information, of proper and accurate information, misinformation and disinformation is then used to fill that vacuum. So all of these affected the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, and helped portray it as an administration that a lot of people would say was incompetent, ineffective, but there were actually a lot of gains. But to a large extent, this other side overshadowed most of the gains that we are beginning to hear and talk about now.
Well, unfortunately, we have to leave the conversation here. I really hope we could discuss more about this, but time is definitely not our friend today. But I must say thank you so much for your time with us on the program. State House correspondent Femi Akonde, and also public affairs analyst Jide Ojo. It was a pleasure speaking with you this morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure. Do have yourself a joyful weekend.
And you too. Well, that's where we'll leave our conversation this morning. We'll now hand you over to Lagos, where Veronica and the rest of the team are standing by to continue with the rest of the show.